Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am so excited about this this episode. I am so stoked because I finally learned how to do redstone. Not super great at it, obviously. I have had to make this video a billion times, and I'm tired of saying what I have to say, but I'm going to do it again for my 0 viewers, for myself. Okay, so my wife got me, for my birthday, because she knows me so well, a redstone guide. Minecraft Mojang redstone guide. I am so stoked I was so stoked to get in here and play and do redstone, and I've finally done it. And I've wanted to do it for a long time. I think that this is the purpose. This should be the reason why we have guides, is to help with redstone, and nobody does it. I don't know why. Nobody understands it, so hopefully I will be able to help with that. Okay, so what this is my elevator. Now, obviously, you could use water as an elevator, but I wanted to do it the old-fashioned way and use redstone. And so let me actually make sure. Okay, it's finally working. Every time I turn this on, it would just not do it. Okay, so this is an elevator. I'm going to show you what it does. So you push that button, and hopefully I won't hit the top the first time, because that would be real embarrassing. 3. There we go. Okay, so works beautifully. I just love it. It's so good. So yeah, basically, I just went from the bottom floor up to my top, to the overworld, to the top of my house, not underground anymore, and that's where my main part of my house is. So, and then if I wanted to go back down, I would just fall in the hole, press the space bar, so I didn't bounce too high, and then back here I am, and then I'll just go back down there. Okay, so that's what I wanted. I wanted that so bad because basically my brothers, we've been playing this game. We've been playing, on this realm, and we've been playing where we were doing it PvP, trying to kill each other and take each other's stuff. Now we're not. So I needed a more efficient way. I just didn't have to come all the way back down here just to be safe. So I have now a bunch of stuff up there, and I could just fall down here and then jump down into that thing. So how does this work? Basically, I just learned this from the Redstone manual, is that if you have a piston underneath a block or a slime block, and you press a button and it shoots in, the piston extends and you're on top of it, it'll shoot you upward. Now, the difficult part is that it doesn't shoot you that far up. It won't get me all the way up to the top, which is frustrating because, frick, it would have been so simple. It would have been so easy. Just put a button. Where's my button? Right there. Would put a button, and then just have a redstone line come down, shoot me up, and it would be great. But it doesn't do that. So I needed to have more complicated components to be able to get myself all the way up to the top. I had to be able to do it again. So what I had to do was I did what I thought I would do. Oh, by the way, obsidian sticky blocks are sticky. And so if I have a block next to them, I used to have gold next to them, and it would come up and it would move my gold blocks up and down with it. So I put obsidian. Obsidian doesn't move. There's a couple of other things that don't move as well, but obsidian was one of those things that sticky slime blocks are not going to move. So yeah, that's why those are there. The button, I don't want to get in here and do that. So I have a redstone line that goes from that connects. This is hollowed out right here. So beneath this block, there's just air, and then there's a redstone path going up this way, and you can kind of see it. So that's where the redstone path is from that side. There's a little tunnel underneath there, and then it goes up, and then there's a spiral staircase basically for the redstone to go up. And so that is where, that is one of the things, is that redstone itself won't travel along walls. I can't just take my redstone and place it on walls. It doesn't work. I wish it would. Redstone has to rest on top of stuff, but it will travel up a block like that. You see that? So you have redstone path coming this way, and then if you have redstone up here and redstone down there, it'll make a little redstone path. So it could travel up things that way. It just has to have a space. It just has to be on stairs, basically. So okay, so let's see, how am I going to do this? So I guess I'll break this block right there. That didn't work. And I'll break that block, and then I'll just go up there with the old-fashioned. Come on. Oh. All right, so back here, so here's the spiral staircase, the top of it. and you see that the redstone's coming up here, right? So your redstone path can split off into multiple directions, and it doesn't really slow it down that much. I think that as you go on, the redstone signal will get weaker, so that's an issue. But this is short enough that I didn't really have to worry about that. So if I was going, I think it says that it can go 15 blocks, and this isn't 15 blocks. The redstone signal will start to fade, and then it won't, and then after 15 blocks it won't go any farther. So you need to renew that current, and the one way to do that is to have a repeater. And the repeater, that's what it does, is it'll renew that signal so that it can keep going down the path. And the reason why you want that is because if you have a button down there, say my path wasn't long enough, my button down there, I would push it, and then it would send the signal down here, and then it would stop. And so I need something to repeat it, so I would put a repeater there and then push it. It would push it farther. Now, if you need a consistent signal, that's not what you just make a shorter path. Either that, or you just you put a redstone torch or something. Repeaters are activated. So there's a difference between things that can be activated and things that have a consistent signal. And things that have a consistent signal, those include redstone torch. Let's see if I have any. I have a redstone repeater, a lever. Like levers, these have a consistent signal. So basically, if I put this down, let's see, right here, for example, and then I push it, done, and it keeps going. Like, it just doesn't stop. But on the other hand, if I have a button, which you just saw earlier, a button will do a signal, but then it'll stop. And that's where you're going to use the repeater, because those things, it's going to renew the signal, but it's not going to create its own signal, which is nice. Because if I have a button, like with this contraption, then I want it to make the signal and then stop, and this thing is going to follow that command. And so I can control it with the button. I can't control a redstone torch with a button. I can't control a redstone block with a button, which is another thing that has a steady signal. Okay, so so the next thing that, yeah, I did that on purpose. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to say, okay, so you see this, oh man, this is the other thing about redstone, is that it breaks really easily. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to show you was what kind of happens here. So the other thing that a repeater can do is it will also delay a signal. So it has multiple uses. All of these things with redstone, the reason why it's confusing is because they have multiple uses. So the repeater, even though it was short enough, I was testing it and realizing that whenever, let me actually put this down so you can get like a little visualization. So I would come up through here, right, and it would go too fast, and a piston can't move whenever it's on whenever it's open. So say for example, right, so like I have the, let's say I push the button, right, and now it's open, right? If I didn't have this repeater here, let's say like that, right, and then it just stays there. I was so frustrated. I couldn't figure it out. Like, I was like, what the heck? Why isn't this moving? I had to like go and like mess around with freaking pistons for a while and like figure out what was going on. Yeah, so it cannot, if this is extended, let's do this. Come on. Oh, the redstone's right there. So I'll put it on that side. Let's say that's open, right? It's open. I can't pull it with this piston. Push it. It's not going to do it. It can't do it. Even if it was like, even if this piston was a little lower and it's stuck to the block itself, I've done it, it doesn't work. If it's open, it doesn't move, which is so frustrating. So what I had to do basically, since this isn't working, I had to make it so that, make sure that this piston was closed by the time this piston went and got the block. So here's the other thing. This piston, whenever it is closed, it will stick to this slime block. So I only have to really grab the slime block. That's all I'm going for. I don't have to grab the piston. I used to have 2 pistons down here, and I would pull both of them that way, and it just got confusing. It was just so confusing, and I had to look up a video to figure out how that, why it wasn't working. And once I realized that this piston right here, or this piston could be pulled, because if the slime block is pulled, if you pull the slime block somewhere, the piston's going to follow it because it's stuck to it. That made it just made things so much simpler. I only have to have 2 pistons rather than 3, and I can easily coordinate 2 pistons rather than 3. So that was much better. Okay, so with let's see, redstone repeater. So with this redstone repeater, so I had that, so let's get back to the story. So I had these 3 pistons, limited it down to 2, still realized that whenever I had let's do this. So whenever I would jump, it would be stuck like that. And that meant that this was pulling too early, because this was still open whenever it was pulling. So I said, okay, let's go over here, put a redstone repeater on this. Okay. Where was that? So let's put this redstone repeater here so that I can delay it so that it doesn't pull back too early, right? So I had this. Okay, so let's move, where was that? So let's delay the signal here so that this goes later, so that this is fully closed by the time I pull it back, right? Okay, so I put this repeater down, and I kind of dinked with it for a second, until it was the right amount of time. And the Redstone book helped out a lot. It said that, so basically this delays it for a very short amount of time. Basically, each one of these delays it for, so let's say this. So a redstone repeater, once you put it down, it already delays it for a little bit. It delays it for 2 ticks, or 1/10 of a second. So 1/10 of a second, what is that? Yeah, so 1/10 of a second, 0.1 seconds, right? So like if you do this, that's another 1/10 of a second, so what is that? 2/10 of a second, 3/10, 4/10, right? So that's real fast. So like it's just barely different. It slows it down very little. So basically I was like, okay, so if I want it to be a little bit slower, actually in reality I'm gonna have to like move it almost all the way back, but not quite. So let's see, 1, 2, there's 4, so 1, yeah, right there. So I was like, okay, so that's where I wanted it at, right? Okay, now, so before it would stop it right there, right? So let's actually, well, we're gonna have to do this. Okay, so now let's see if it works. So I just showed you that it did. So whenever the button presses, it didn't work. Balls. There it goes. Wait a minute. Aha! Okay, so basically, button occurs, right? It's up. Button deactivates, it goes back down. Okay, so that was perfect. I was like, okay, that's so good. Okay, and then break this. No, I don't want to get the redstone underneath. It's gone. Okay, so that, yes, and that is how. So after I figured that out, I was like, okay, that's great. That's so good. And then it started working, basically. And I realized that I had to put all obsidian over here so that this slime block didn't move these blocks. Also, I had to raise the roof on my house so that whenever I bounced up, I would have time to like go and land. And finally, I forgot to mention one thing. For this piston to go up, I don't want it to go up here, but I want it to go up here. So I had to bring this redstone trail around to be where I wanted the piston to extend. Okay, so like it doesn't matter that this lights up first. What matters is that it lights up where I want the piston to be at, because it'll have a bit of time before it happens. Okay, so that is basically it, I think. So let's go back down and look at this stuff in action. And I'll show you again. So button presses, it's going to go all the way up. It's going to hit, the redstone signal is going to split between the piston that's going to be the first piston, and it'll push it out, and then the second piston will push me up. And yeah, so it'll hit the repeater so that this piston will delay pushing it out before this piston goes up. Okay, ready? There we go. Then so that's that, and I'm sure that it's still confusing. My redstone is confusing as heck. It's so confusing. Really didn't understand it until I started taking. I didn't even want to play around with it until data science classes, and it took forever. It took so much troubleshooting just for this little thing. Like, I had to stop playing it yesterday. I had to stop playing Minecraft yesterday just because it was so frustrating. So yeah, Redstone is a little bit tricky, but very worth it. Like, this is so sweet. Like, I just fly up there. It's so great. And honestly, it's worth tinkering around with. There may have to be able to like understand like where, if you have a problem, you may have to go and sit down for a little bit and take a break, and then, you know, like have some hot chocolate and then calm down and then come back to it, because then it'll be obvious. Because I'm going to tell you, at first, like, I had this repeater over here and I was trying to delay this thing, and then it didn't make sense. I was like, what? And I had to leave it alone for a while, and then I realized the problem wasn't this one going too fast, but it was this one. And so that's whenever I switch the repeater, and sometimes it doesn't even make sense. You just got to try a couple of different things for it to work out, because, I mean, I didn't even know. I was like, well, maybe it's that one instead of this one. And I was just like, well, okay, I'll try to put the repeater over here, boink, and then it worked, and it was beautiful. And I was like, how, why? And then I thought about it. I was like, oh, that makes sense. This one needs to be slower, not that one. I was like, okay, well, because if you think about it, it's like, well, wouldn't it make sense? You want this to be slower, you want this one to be slower, so that, you know, it could push it out first, and then you go up, and then you go down, and it's, well, what you want is this one slower, so that it, like, you know, you can reach the signals, it gets the signal later, so that, you know, it pushes this out, and then that goes up, and then it goes down, and then, yeah. Okay, anyways, so that, if that isn't confusing enough for you, I don't know what is, but have fun with your redstone stuff, guys. I am going to continue reading this book, and I will come out with more redstone stuff as I learn about it and as I make new inventions, and I will let you know about all of the great redstone things that I learn about. If you have any questions, any comments, anything that I could do better, please put them below. Communicate with me. I would love to be a better Minecraft player, and I will see you guys later.